Hi everyone, it's John from T4 Family. I hope you enjoyed our van tour video from the other day. Today I want to talk more about the inside, the interior of our van Gino, what we've got at the moment, what we're planning to change, and the reasons behind why we want to change it. Okay, so as I mentioned in our van tour video, we've had Gino now for nearly 18 months. We have done 2 summers in this van. We have managed to do everything that we need with the interior that we've currently got. So some of you might be thinking, why go ahead and change it? It's a good question. It probably doesn't need changing, but it's more a case of wanting to get the van how we want it. This winter, the plan is to tidy up the interior. That's going to include quite a lot of changes. I'm going to go through some of those with you now. So first of all, the units that we've got in the van at the moment, we went through the paperwork and it turns out they are IKEA kitchen units. The units on the left-hand side are overhead cabinets, ones you normally have at eye level in your kitchen, with the IKEA doors on the front. Units at the back of the van, they are upright units that you would normally put your cooker units in. Quite a clever use of IKEA units. They're quite a bit cheaper than buying proper van specific furniture. Slight downside is though that they are quite a bit heavier than camper van furniture. The units themselves are chipboard, which is quite a heavy material. The other thing that we've noticed, the doors, when the rock and roll bed is up, it's very difficult to get into the wardrobe area. When the rock and roll bed is down, it's very difficult to get into the front cabinets next to the fridge. Another thing we noticed with the units that are in here is when we originally bought the van, there were no shelves inside. You had a double unit underneath the hob and the sink. Inside it was just a big open space. There was a big 25-litre water bottle in there. It's quite difficult to make use of that space. So what we did almost straight away was go out, get some pine shelving and knock together some shelves. As the design sort of evolved over the first few months, we got the fridge, which is a Dometic CRX50. It's a very common 12-volt fridge that you see in campervan conversions. As a result of fitting that in, we did need to trim the door on the left-hand side and rearrange the shelf units. That also meant that we had less space for the water bottle, so when we switched the shelves over, we put a smaller water bottle in there as well. In the area where the gas is stored, the middle area on the right-hand side of the lower units, that when we got the van was just a gas bottle. There was just a plain panel on the front. We took that panel off, cut it down the middle roughly, put hinges on it. Then inside the unit, we put in a shelf. That's been very useful because it provides us an area where we can store things. We've also got some USB charging sockets in that space. The back wardrobe unit didn't have any shelves in. We put some shelves in. This is where we store things like our fans for when it's hot. On the upper 2 shelves, that's our store cupboard. So all of our dry food, cereals, jars, cans, they're tucked in there. We're hoping that when we switch this out for our new furniture run, quite a lot of the campervan furniture runs, they have a tambour door or separate wardrobe spaces at the back. That should make things a little bit easier for us. We're also hoping as well, because the rear wardrobe areas on campervan furniture runs, they're usually a bit wider than what we've got at the moment. So we're hoping that that brings things a little bit more forward in the van. The new units that we want to get on order, we mentioned that the wardrobe area is going to be bigger at the back. Also, we're looking at a set of furniture from a supplier that makes quite good use of the extra area around the fridge. We're going to swap our SMEV hob and sink unit. At the moment, the sink is on the left-hand side. The furniture run that we're looking at needs a sink on the right-hand side, but in doing so, what that enables us to do is have an extra drawer above the fridge. So that's going to give us a little bit more space there. Another advantage of the new cabinets is that the gas bottle is going to be situated a bit lower in the van. It's going to have its own sealed off area. That's good news because it means that above the gas bottle area there's going to be an additional storage. That's going to be accessible from a top loading hinge in the worktop. The next thing I want to explain is the electrics. The electrics are going to have an overhaul as part of this reconversion process. At the moment, we have a Sargent EC155 all-in-one power unit. This is a great system for camper vans, particularly good for larger conversions. For our camper van, it is a little bit overkill. What is quite handy about the Sargent unit is when you're on mains hookup, the circuit breakers all built in. You just hook it up. There's a built-in battery charger. When you're on mains hookup, it's charging the leisure battery. The downside of the Sargent unit is quite a bulky unit. It takes up quite a lot of space at the back of the van. What we're planning to do is when we fit the new units, we're also going to fit some new electrical components. We are still going to keep the same leisure battery, but we are now going to have a completely separate 240 volt mains hookup. The benefit of that is it's completely separate from all of our 12 volt electrics. So you've got mains separate from the 12 volt. We don't need a lot of circuits on our 12 volt side. At the moment, we've got a light in the pop top, the lights in the main living area, and we've got some low level lighting. We have a separate circuit to keep the fridge running, USB cigarette lighter style sockets for charging devices, and we have the water pump. What we will find as part of losing the Sargent unit is that battery protection becomes more important, so making sure that the battery is not overcharged or undercharged. That's really important because if you run your leisure batteries too low, what you can do is cause damage to the battery. The next thing I want to talk about is insulation of the van. So at the moment, we don't know the full extent of how insulated this van is. We know from taking panels off, in some areas there is Celotex insulation against some of the panels, but we also know that the voids, the areas around those boards, haven't been particularly well insulated. We also noted that there's no vapor barrier behind at least some of the panels. I also have a feeling, although I'm not sure yet, that the sliding door and the tailgate are not insulated at all. So the plan here for insulation, we're going to be using Kingspan or Celotex style insulation boards between the outer panels and the inner panels. Where we can't fit solid boards in, we're going to be using recycled plastic bottle loft insulation. The choice for using that insulation, there's a couple of reasons. First of all, it's a recycled product. Recycled plastic bottle insulation does not absorb water. We're also going to seal the panel cavities with a vapor barrier. So what we're going to use is foil lined bubble wrap. We're going to use that to seal in the cavities where the insulation is. It also acts as a radiant reflective barrier as well. As well as sorting the insulation for the van, we also want to have a look at the carpet lining and the panels. We're going to switch them out for 4mm or 3.6mm ply board. We're also going to change the easy liner stretch fabric, the carpet lining. At the moment, it's a kind of mid-grey colour. It doesn't match the roof. As well as the side panels, we're also going to look at the floor. So at the moment, the floor has got an 18mm plywood base, and then on top of that, it's got Altro safety flooring. So we're going to take everything up, take it right back to the metal, check for rust. If there's any rust, we're going to treat it, whether that be rubbing it back and painting it or cutting it out and welding new panels. We only want to do this job once, so it's worth doing properly. When we put the floor back down, we're going to put down an insulating or vapor barrier down on the metal first. We might also put in some vibration dampening pads. It's especially important around the wheel arches to reduce the amount of road noise that's getting thrown into the van while we're driving. Putting the floor back down, we'll then put down some new safety flooring on top of it. It's not overly expensive. I think I've had quotes for around about £100. Finally, the last thing that's on our list is the rock and roll bed. Now, we're not sure what we're going to do about this one. At the moment, the rock and roll bed that we've got is made by Streamline. It's crash tested. It does what it needs to do. The downsides that we've got with this particular bed are that it's not lift assisted, so when you're putting it back into the travelling position, it's very heavy to lift it up. If we do keep the Streamline bed, we probably will get the foam in the bottom replaced with slightly sturdier foam. That might mean recovering. We know that the vinyl that's currently on the bed probably won't match the new units that we're putting in. If funds permit, though, the plan is to actually replace the streamline bed. Because the streamline is an A frame, it means that it opens up in an A profile when it's in the traveling position. There's not a lot of space behind the bed for storage. We've also noticed that the frame on this bed is quite big. There is not a lot of space underneath the bed for putting things for traveling. Our options for changing the bed would be something like a Cambi bed, which has a slide down front two panels, then the rear panel hinges up rather than being an A shape. If we went down the Cambi route, there's also a lot of more room underneath the bed. They do drawers, which would be great storage. Saying that, the Cambi bed is quite expensive. It's, I believe, £1,800. The other option that we could consider is the rib bed. This is a very popular bed in a lot of conversions. A lot of professional conversion companies fit the rib beds. The advantage of the rib bed is it's very much more designed to be a traveling seat. So the seats are much more geared up to having passengers in them. Also, the rib bed, the way that it folds into a bed, the front panel folds forward and then leans out in front, and then the backrest folds down flat at the back. There's another panel which then folds flat as well. A rib bed is going to be about £2,000 again. We think that that will give us more space in the back for storing things like the awning and all the other things that we have to take with us. If we can get the money together, rib bed. If not, I think we're going to have to keep this streamline bed for just a little bit longer. Okay, so that gives you an idea of everything that we want to change in the van. It's going to be a fairly long process. We're going to be doing this over the next 2-3 months. There's quite a lot to do. We've got to get the units on order. We've got to plan the electrics, get all the insulation on order, scribe new panels in. There's loads to do. We'd love it if you would follow us on that journey. So if you could subscribe to the channel, give us a thumbs up on the video. If you've got any questions, please leave a comment or send us a message. We will do what we can to get back to you. Thanks again for watching. See you soon.